you doing, Zaz?
All good. Live and zazzing.
Live and zazzing. To do the song?
Yeah, let's do it.
Maude! It's a 6 Maude cast. Street man and woosty villain. Go from the Prime TV show, thinking of the children. Something like a low-fat ice cream milk drinker. Least important character in TV history. Go next door with ruined Sunday best. Tattoo on your leg. Maude.
Good. She's never... I'm just going to clear the air on something though. I don't think she's ever said, can somebody please think of the children?
Really?
I think it's always been Helen and Mo
right.
once.
In the episode I know, is it the immigration one with groundskeeper Willie, that somebody shouts think of the children, or would someone think of the children? Is that not Maude then?
No, it's Helen, but Maude is stood directly next to her.
All right. So this is the Maudecast. The Cockney Watchdogs present the Maudecast, episode 6, sponsored by RuPaul's Drag Race, Competitor Season 6, Vivacious, the Cerebus Concept, and Jacques Derrida, the MR Maudecasting Corporation, giving it a level of seriousness it does not deserve. I'm going to throw a Derrida quote at you. I want you to put it in Maude context. To pretend I actually do the thing, I have therefore only pretended to pretend.
That's going to take me a minute to wrap my head around. Maybe, oh no, because we saw her with them. I was going to apply it to her saying she was going to go and get the hot dogs, and then maybe she just pretended to get the hot dogs, but in her head she pretended to get the hot dogs and actually got them.
Oof, So today, tell us about the episode. Which episodes are we looking at in today's episode?
Today's episode, this shocked me to my core. This is all of her season 3 appearances wrapped up. So there's 3 individual appearances. She only has lines in one of these 3 episodes. The other 2, she is mulling around. And I've decided that I'm gonna get every scene that she appears in, line or no line, for us to look at. So that's included in this week's episode. So there's Flaming Moes, Bart the Lover, and the Herb Powell one that I can't remember the name of. Like, brother, can you spare 2 dimes?
Now that's similar to what you told me, but you also put in one called Homer the Heretic. Is that the Flaming Moes one?
Did I?
That's the way you said. You said, brother, can you spare 2 dimes? Homer the Heretic, Bart the Lover, Maude season 3 growth analysis. So that's what I'm...
That's strange. That's just a complete accident. I don't know why I've said that. I haven't watched that episode of recent. You've intrigued me now though, because that is a very churchy episode. Did I say that to you, or is that different? Do you have that information from somewhere else? Because I might have just missed one.
It's quoted directly from you, from the internet, but we can check that and tell people next week in a segment we call Several Months Too Late. But now, before we get into the Maudeverse, or as I like to call it, the moratorium, a little bit of Maude news, I had another call from our uncle, Statman John. Do you want to hear what he said?
Yes, I think I will be hearing it either way.
Regardless. Beep. Hey, everyone from Maudecats. I was listening and watching your Maudecats show, and I didn't even see about any cats, but I still love it because I'm about the stats and I'm not about the content. But you took a hell of a beating, nailing right out of park, and I give you one stat right in your big dirty nose face. 4 more pop than 3. Now you want me to unpack that? Episode 4 already have more views than episode 3, which is mind-blowing. Blow everyone's mind from over here in Utrecht all the way over to New Amsterdam. And you now have, for the big boy though, episode number 1, 400 views on the YouTubes. Ate a hot potato and egg together when I saw that news, because my mouth, I wanted it to be on fire. Now you said last week that other boy, he says that I'm from Waz. Now I live in the West, but I'm from West. I'm from little town called Maude, North Holland. Not up Holland, North Holland. And I say no to thumbs. I say no to thumbs down. I say no to thumbs down. And you know what, Nathan? I found out who gave us the thumbs down. It was a rotter called Organ Skirt. And I'm on your trail, Organ Skirt. I'm gonna come give you thumbs down in your big face. Beep. So the stat man, he's been doing a little bit of research for us into who gave us that thumbs down a week or so ago. But 400 views for episode 1. The magnitude is unbelievable.
It's unreal. I'm surprised about number 3 and 4 because, in my current opinion, 4 is the weakest out of the 4.
Well, let's keep it. 3 is the best. 3 is the best.
Yeah, 5's pretty good for anybody who's waiting on that, but it'll already be online when this comes out.
It will, a full week ago. But 3 has the Maude Flanders video at the end, and I imagine that Maude Flanders band, if you're out there listening, respect. I bet they're mashing, their fans are mashing those buttons, and I bet if we look at the stats, all people just skip the first 60 minutes of that show and just watch the last 5.
That's what I do.
And who can blame them? I want to move on to the Maudeverse, aka the moratorium. The facts and theories and ideas are coming thick and fast, and I've just put them into a big bucket, and I want you to give me some numbers, and I'm going to pick them out, and we can just talk about 2 or 3 of them every week. As if we try to go through all 100, we're going to overrun our 15 minutes of banter time that we've allowed ourselves. But it's number 0 that I'm going to force in here. Nediana Flanders. I'm putting it right out there. It's the elephant in the room. It's the egg on your face. Nediana Flanders. Last week, listeners, as you know, Nathan claimed Ned had no sister, and so this whole idea of them going to Capital City was madness. What do you want to say about that?
I'm not backing down yet. Until I get more concrete proof, I'm not backing down. That book could have been written by anybody. I have that book.
Who did write it?
I don't know, I'll tell you now, because I have it in my room. This will be cut out for time.
Good. There's the book. Open it up.
Doesn't tell you. There's a lot of... It says Scott M. Gimple, which might be a different guy to the guy who created the Walking Dead TV series, or took over as showrunner, from the Darabont guy. But there's 4 writers, and I discredit any of them.
So you say that Nediana Flanders is not canon? And it's
no.
Not mentioned in any episode, other than the one that we said last week where she was mentioned, but not by name.
Well, I'm looking forward to being proven wrong.
All right, come on, fans, prove us wrong. Prove Nathan wrong and get that egg all over his face that Nediana Flanders is real.
But I also don't think I'm going to be proven wrong.
Well, we'll see. The moratorium currently has close to 100 facts or stories in there. You give me a number, I'll throw it at you. We'll do a couple of them and then we'll move on. So give me a number between 1 and 100.
74.
Oh, there's a lot of scrolling there. 74. See if you can respond to this one. All right, so I looked, and the baby trend name, it suggested that Maude was a trending baby name. It also suggested that Apu was a trending baby name, so I'm not sure when or where or what universe this is in. Maybe it's an Indian baby name generator, I don't know. But Maude, what is your thoughts on the fact that Maude is now trending as a baby name?
Currently?
I have very few facts about that.
So just at some point in history, it was trending as a baby name.
Yeah.
I would speculate that it was probably around the time of Beata if it was trending. However, I know that Judd Apatow has a daughter called Maude, and she's an actress now, I think. So maybe there's been a resurgence of popularity in the name. I also, people in Wigan refer to the girlfriend as the Maudes. Did you know that?
Oh, they do, don't they? I forgot about that. They will say, Maude.
Yeah, I don't think it's connected in any way, but it's just, it's weird. I only heard it the first time maybe like 10 years ago. So I'd gone a long time without hearing it, and then some guy, JD, said it to me.
Well, there's a lot of weird things going on in Wigan, but that is a good coincidence. I'm adding it to the list. Give me one more.
12.
Oh, scrolling all the way back up. Number 12, Rod and Todd Watchdog. So we did a Christmas album about 10 years ago under the name of Rod and Todd Watchdog. Had no Simpsons references, but was his Christmas albums. But this led me to the thought of, should we, because we're a band called the Cockney Watchdogs, should we do a Cockney Watchdogs Maud-based LP?
Yes, of course we should. I have a poem somewhere that I wrote at uni that was, it was set, I don't know why it's taken me 6 episodes to bring this up. It's Maud's process of thought after being hit by the T-shirts before she hits the ground.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like that, because I wrote, harking back to last week's episode, which mentioned It's a Wonderful Life, I wrote a song called Bradford Falls, Christmas Eve, and it's George on his way to the station before he hears that his father has had the heart attack, and he has to go back and take over the business, and there's just this small point just before his world is destroyed and George is walking to the station. But I want to hear your Maud poem. So can you pull it out for us in episode 7?
Yeah, I'll find it. I think it'll be on my laptop, I think, just hanging around.
All right, so we got a few minutes left of banter time before we move into content, and I want to tell you a little bit more and dig into what's been happening at the MFIMDTPAHCF, the Maud Flanders Internet Theme Park, database and book depository and hotcake restaurant, Worsley Mains Netto car park. I, as you know, had to go part-time back working at the park because sales have been slow. And I've just heard that you have incurred massive gambling debts that have put the entire organization at risk. Would you like to confirm or deny that?
Yeah, I'll confirm it, but I can't say too much. But all I will say is don't worry about it.
Oh, so you got it under control.
Yeah, I have an ace up my sleeve.
I did hear it was now currently up to 7 figures. So I am starting to get a little bit shaky on that.
The more that you put on, the more that you win back. Exactly.
Double down, always double down. So, as you know, we were also in court last week overthrowing that Sphinx into the Rigva Dugya that flooded all those old people's houses. More bad news is that they've actually thrown another 100,000 on that. So we owe £200,000. But what I did is I suggested that we were going to do a fan fiction play and put it on around all the old people's homes in Wigan and see if that would pay. And they said that would bring it down from 200,000 to about £199,997 if we did that. So are you up for that?
Yes.
That's good. Now, Stamp, our little night watchman, who you forced to ride that ride for a week, we owe him $250,000 in damages. And I'm now starting to feel that these numbers are kind of racking up, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel because he may have incriminated himself with this latest message that he sent me the other day. So do you want to hear that?
Yeah, I will say this, though. I've seen a copy of his will, and again, I think we're just playing a waiting game because we're in there.
Oh, so he's left.
He has no one else.
He's got nobody left. Well, maybe this message that I'm going to play for you now was sent out of love. Then, beep.
Nathan, I am outside. Nathan, my clock is running out, and you are making matters worse for me. I am outside of your house, and I have drunk 4 bottles of Diamond White. I've thrown Kez in the bin. Your Castro is no more. And I have taken the eye restriction sign off your roller coaster and smashed it over my knee. I am in your back garden right now with a stone covered in syrup.
Beep. So he's doing himself no favor, to be honest, because we're going to have to put this a bit of a game, right? Are we going to pay this money back, or is he going to incriminate himself by continuing to harass you?
First of all, I didn't put him on the roller coaster. I just didn't help him off of the roller coaster. So let's clear that up. Second, yeah, he's still out there. I can see him now. He's just urinating up the side of a bin.
He doesn't move
fast. Every 5.
Very weak bladder.
No, he's very slow, and every couple of seconds he turns around to check that his rock covered in syrup's still there. So it's taken him quite a while. I've watched him try and throw it like 4 times as well, and he can't muster the strength after the multiple bad things that have happened, including he's been hit by 9 cars in his life.
8 of them in the last week. I mean, he's definitely on a bit of a downward spiral. Obviously, covering the rock in syrup has made it very hard to handle as well. So I'm not sure what he what his thought process was behind covering his weapons with delicious fructose.
Yeah, and I keep seeing he just keeps getting stuck to his hand, and every now and again he just gets just a swarm of cats, and then he just has to spend 15 minutes. But he isn't dealing with the cats the way that you or I would. He's trying to reason with them.
Oh my goodness. Reasoning with wild cats while smothered in syrup. That's how I imagine Stamp would go down, to be honest. All right.
So I don't think we have much to worry about, because I can see him now, and if he's the one that takes us down, then we're the problem, not him.
Yeah, he's our nemesis, isn't he? But he's no supervillain.
He is our nemesis, but in the same way, I love him.
I love him. I love him like a dog or a cat or a human. Shall we move on to the content of today's episode? That's been the designated banter time.
Yeah.
So the first episode you sent was the Flaming Moes one. Now, Flaming Moes, that song, Maude Aside, is my favourite. And I just sent you, I did an acoustic recording of it. Is it okay if I drop it in right now so people can hear me sing that Flaming Moes song?
Of course.
Weight of the world has got you down and you want to end your life. Bills to pay, dead-end job, and problems with the wife. Don't throw in the towel, 'cause there's a place right down the block. You can drink your misery away. Let's all go to Flaming Moes. Go to flaming liquor in a jar. Warm you like a hug. Happiness is just a flaming moe away. Happiness is just a flaming moe away. Party! It's a great song. Obviously, based on Cheers.
Yes, I do remember from childhood specifically that song being sung a lot by, especially you, maybe not Kieran as much, but that's the one Simpsons song I sort of remember being. That and maybe Lisa, It's Your Birthday are the two that I remember you singing the most.
Lisa, it's your birthday. We talked about this last week, though. You're not allowed to sing that anymore, are you? It's been erased from canon.
True. But the song itself, I think, if we're gonna get down to the specifics, the song itself is fine because it was sung by he got his his professional sound-alike to sing the song to confuse the other Jackson family members.
Well, I'm sure they were confused. Hold on, this sounds almost exactly like Michael, but not quite.
Yeah, it was his one and only scandal.
It was the low point when it came out. It was his nadir when it came out that he had actually not sung that song. But still, I wonder where he is now. I haven't heard of him for a while. So in the beginning of this show, we see Edna with two sailors. Now that's not really relevant to Maude, but of course we know that Edna marries Ned later. Edna hanging around with two sailors. Maybe she's the anti-Maude, not Marge.
I would agree wholeheartedly. I do like a lot of the Ned and Edna elements because, yeah, she is the complete opposite of Maude. And another fun fact is the episode where they get together has a callback to this episode with Joey Kramer, the drummer from Aerosmith, appears again to as like one of Mrs. Krabappel's ex-partners.
Interesting. So clip one is Aerosmith playing in Moe's bar, which I think has become very famous because of his drink, the Flaming Moe. Now we see Ned and Maude in a booth. Ned's got his arm around Maude, and Maude is kind of smiling. She's trying to look around the legs of Otto and a young lady who are dancing on the table in front of him and just boogieing on the table in front of them. And Steven Tyler from Aerosmith shouts the line, "Till you're down on your muffin and you ain't seen nothing." And they are sitting on their muffins and they can't see anything. So I wonder to what extent that was applicable. But I kind of wondered, Maude is smiling and maybe she's even dancing a little bit. What in Jiminy Crickets are those two doing in Moe's bar of an evening watching Aerosmith?
Yeah, that's sort of the best thing about this. This is why I've decided we are going to include all the Maude clips, because she's going to show up in some weird places. And yeah, this just doesn't fit any kind of bill. So I think we can add to our fact findings that Maude is an Aerosmith fan. Because I feel like you don't see her there at any other point. So I get the impression, and we've already seen her. I've not checked this, but does she have a drink on the table?
No, and I've actually made a note, no drinks on table. But of course, Otto and that girl are dancing, so they could have kicked the drinks off. But then you would imagine they wouldn't be quite as happy. But there's quite a big smile on Maude's face. Ned seems pleased too. But no drinks, no.
Yeah, it looks like they're having a nice time. It looks like they're there by choice. And yeah, there's no drinks. We're going to keep that theme running and say they've obviously not gone there to drink the Flaming Moe. They have gone there to watch Aerosmith, because you don't see them there again, even though you do see Aerosmith there like 3 or 4 more times. But
Different.
Maude sees something once, she doesn't want to spoil it. She doesn't want to go every night.
So do Aerosmith repeatedly play in this episode or in multiple episodes?
No, just in this episode, they just become like the house band.
Yeah, so it was weird that the Maude was there, but she seemed to be having fun, so we can peg her down maybe as an Aerosmith fan as she's not drinking a Flaming Moe. But that's it. That's all we see. It's a great episode, but Maude plays only a fleeting part in it. So then we move on to clip 2, which is an absolute banger from the TV episode Bart the Lover. Totally key. Now, you included a little bit, so Homer's in his garden and he's cutting up some wood or something, and something goes wrong, and then Todd, the little one, right? Todd Flanders, hears Homer like cursing to hell with this, and Todd kind of looks back and he's kind of smiling. We cut to the Flanders dining room. Multiple pieces of cutlery. They've got all kinds of forks and spoons and knives. It's all very posh. And there's a picture of some river on the wall, and I wonder whether maybe Maude painted that. You can tell me that in a moment. We got a nice big salad, which she seems to describe as mixed vegetables, but to me looks more like a salad. Maybe there's mashed potatoes. Maude comes in her light blue apron while Ned is recounting the story of how a man came into the shop and asked for change for $1, but Ned only gave him 3/4. Spent most of the afternoon tracking him down, and as we find out later, pestered the Reverend Lovejoy several times as well. And here is the key. Maude says, Todd, would you like some mixed vegetables? And then the shit really ran. What does Todd say?
He says, I don't want any damn vegetables. No, he says something else first, doesn't he?
He says, hell no.
Yeah.
And the other 3 Flanders, they gasp mouth open, and a look on Maude's face of her worst fears realized. Her son has taken the wrong path. So Maude's eyes, they squint and she turns to anger, and Maude says, what did you say? And then Todd says,
I said I didn't want any damn vegetables.
Maude's hand goes to her mouth, and then Ned asserts himself. All right, that's it. His fingers wagging and his brow is all furrowed. That's it, young man. No Bible stories for you tonight. And that's when Todd realized the extent of his transgression. And he cries, little tears. He knows he's blown it, and he runs upstairs to his room. And Maude turns and says, Ned, weren't you a little hard on him? And Ned, maybe agreeing, he says, well, you knew I had a temper when you married me. And this look of resigned disappointment on Maude's face. Flanders jumps back on the phone to Lovejoy to tell him what's going down, who is eating a nice piece of pie after being disturbed several times over this missing quarter story. What do you make of that scene? That is crucial.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Maybe I'll start holding my hand if I have a point, because some of these are related to the very first thing you said. But Todd being in the garden again. It's interesting that this is now our second Todd. Out of the 2 Flanders kids, this is the second time Todd's been the focus, and we still don't know anything about Rod. However, Rod is the first one to get an episode to himself in like season 15, and Todd doesn't get one till like, I think it's like season 31. So at some point it does flip where Rod becomes the more popular of the two Flanders kids to show. Oh, at some point they definitely even out where they're both as a like kind of like Sherry and Terry. Like you don't really see Rod and Todd apart, but at this time now you still see Todd doing stuff on his own quite a lot. So that was point one. The next thing you said was about the picture, which I would like to see of a river, because maybe it's a photograph in the Simpsons world. Maybe it's not a drawing.
It's big. It's big. It would be unusual to be a photograph of that size, but it could be a photographic poster. Could be a painting. That's the dilemma in the Simpsons world. We don't know the difference. Yeah. However, we know that Maude. We find out that Maude likes to draw. Do we ever hear that she maybe likes to paint, or one of the other Flanders?
I don't think so. I think we only really hear that she likes to draw like a season after she's died. Anyway, it's never really mentioned whilst alive, to my knowledge. But yeah, the second thing I was going to say is that Maude comes in and puts all the food on the table and stuff, and Ned tells his story about the change. And they all just completely ignore him. Maude doesn't acknowledge his story at all. She just turns around to Todd and says, "Do you want some vegetables?"
Does she not like go, like just humoring him? Or do they just totally ignore the story entirely?
It's just completely like, I just rewatched that just before we started, and it's just, I don't know how this is going to be conveyed over audio, but it's essentially Ned says his line and Maude just does a head turn instantly. Says, "Todd, do you want any vegetables?"
That will be conveyed. That will definitely be conveyed by audio. That audio description that you just gave.
Good. The head turn was the bit that was throwing me off, but then I just said it instead of doing it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Maude has no interest at all. Because you'd imagine even if she didn't care, she would feign interest. But she's just not bothered. She's not going to talk about this. If Reverend Lovejoy's already heard the story, by the way, the last thing Reverend Lovejoy says when he hangs up the phone is "damn Flanders," which made me laugh. But yeah, if Reverend Lovejoy's heard this like 4 or 5 times, I imagine this is like maybe the 3rd or 4th time Maude's heard this story today.
Exactly, which is why it's not that she doesn't care or that she's not interested. It's just that she's heard this before. It's the boys who are engrossed, although they're not interested in the slightest either, are they, to be honest, in Neddy's story?
No.
It's just an example of the level of drama of Ned's life, and it sets the scene for this, where in any other household, with an 8-year-old or whatever would say, "I don't want any damn vegetables." Actually, it would still be probably not well received in many households. So, yeah.
It's disrespectful, but you get the sense that Todd doesn't really know what he's saying is disrespectful. He's not trying to be disrespectful, he's just mirroring Homer. And
maybe.
But Maude and Ned don't care for this. They don't care what the excuse is. And Maude's the first one to jump in though with "What did you say?" So she's the reactor. She's the one who's like, "No, we're going to deal with this now." And then he says his second thing, "damn vegetables," and she's shocked. She's appalled, and then that's when Ned steps in and makes the authoritative decision. And it's Maude who thinks that Ned has maybe overreacted.
Now, does she really think that, or is she just embarrassed that she was the first one to go in hard? "What did you say?" She didn't say, oh goodness, Todd, what are you saying to him? What did you say? It was very accusatory. And
maybe.
But it's easy to accuse someone if they've literally just done it in front of you. So maybe she had a point. But and again, the joke being that Neddy's rage is not rageful at all until that point where he actually does just lose his shit entirely. Yeah,
which sort of makes it not like all these little like jokes early on about Flanders' rage. They're obviously like, they did those jokes because it's out of character and that was the joke at the time. But then they did make it where he does have a genuine rage. From the end of that episode is one of my favourite lines, and this is ahead, the one where the hurricane, and then he goes crazy.
Yeah.
The last thing he says is something like, "I'm just going to start, if I don't like something, I'm just going to start telling you," and everybody cheers. And then he says, "And if you really tick me off, I'll run you down with my car."
Yeah.
He does have like that joke now of you knew I had rage problems when you married me is just a real harrowing portrait into the choices Maude made.
Well, I do have an idea for a segment that we probably never get to, which is like where we put a different last name on Maude and we kind of think where she would have been had she made other choices, such as Maude Sislak, or even Maude Guy, if she married comic book guy.
Albertson.
Was that his name?
Yes, Jeff. He also has a wife, by the way, now, who is from Osaka.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's good.
I forgot her name, though. Kumiko.
Kumiko, what's his last name? Kumiko Jefferson?
Kumiko Albertson.
Albertson. All right, let's move on to clip 3.1, as I've called it, because it doesn't actually mention or feature Maude in any way. And you did tell me why you included it, but I can't remember. Ned comes to talk to Homer and he says, "Oh, yeah, if you want to find out where your camcorder is, I lost it." Like a dick. And he says, "No, I've come to talk about your potty mouth." And this is where he throws in all of us pull a few boners now and again. And is that the only reason he threw that in?
Yeah, I included it because he says that about the boners, which was what we were talking about. I remember saying at the time, I think Ned says it at some point. So I was glad that it came up. And he says something else in that scene that was the reason I sent it to you. What's the first, what does he say before the bonus stuff? What's the first thing he says to Homer? Do you have it written down? I remembered. He says, "I have a bone to pick with you." And the last time we saw that, well, we might have seen Homer and Ned together since, because I've not looked for Ned's appearances, but the last time we saw them, they had a bone to pick, and it almost cost him his career. So I wondered if Ned was throwing shade, as they said.
It almost cost Homer his life as well, if you remember. So that bone didn't, to be honest, it wasn't particularly lucky for either of them. It almost killed one of them and ruined the other one. So we can't blame the bone for that. So next clip. This is a totally different episode. This is the Homer's brother one. Their brother, can you spare a true dime? So this ragged man who he left.
No, you missed one. You missed the one with Todd watching the TV.
Yeah, I did. You're right. So we cut to Todd on the sofa watching the TV. "Golly, Sergeant Carter, I can't fix your Jeep." Now that sounds like it's a reference to the Andy Griffith Show, because there was a spin-off that included a character called Sergeant Carter. I didn't know that. I did a bit of research. But he's watching the Andy Griffith Show, which is a light-hearted 60s comedy. It's not a Christian show, but it's by no means Breaking Bad. So it's pretty innocuous stuff. And but it may be the cause of some concern, because he's no longer watching Christian TV. The Ned and Maude watch on. Todd is on the sofa, transfixed, smiling. Ned says, "Is this all he watches?" Well, he used to watch Davy and Goliath. But he found the idea of a talking dog was blasphemous. So that's a good line. Davy and Goliath was this weird early 60s claymation show about a boy and his dog who go through, it describes it as, they learn the love of God through everyday occurrences. Weirdly enough, there was a 2004 special of Davy and Goliath, in which Davy and Goliath learned about Hanukkah and Eid as well as Christmas. So, they got in on that whole 21st century shtick.
So that went down a treat at the time. The Davy and Goliath thing, I only know it from The Simpsons, but they've mentioned it a few times, to the point where there is at some point like a claymation parody of it within The Simpsons, where they find like a pipe bomb or something. But Davy and Goliath it's sort of associated with like sort of safe entertainment for children. So I do like the note that I made about this, the mental note, is that once again we don't really know anything about Maude's relationship with God. She's once again talking about she's talking about Todd's relationship with religion as opposed to her own. She doesn't find the idea of a talking dog blasphemous, or she would have been in agreement with him, or he wouldn't have been watching it in the first place. So she doesn't share the feelings, but she understands that Todd does, and she respects that.
Now, has she been through her own religious struggle, or is she just not really into it and she's just kind of playing along? Do we get any hints of that?
I kind of think she's into it, because there is a few episodes. I know the hurricane one, she's very, she's the one who keeps the faith and all that kind of jazz. So I think she does have some religion in her. And she also goes on like a pilgrimage, so I think she is quite into it herself.
Your favourite throwaway joke line refers to this pilgrimage, doesn't it? No spoilers. It's going to come up in season 8, I believe.
Yeah. So, I don't think Maude. I think Maude just sort of knows where she's at with her faith. I imagine she's never really had that kind of crisis that we see both Ned. We see Ned, Rod, and Todd, I think, go through some kind of, maybe not Rod as much. Rod's more about, his episode is more about getting confidence. But Ned and Todd both have episodes about, they lose their faith in God because Maude has died.
Yeah, so maybe Maude's not around enough for us to find out really. But I would be surprised if her faith hadn't been shaken a couple of times in her life. Everybody's getting shaken, but not stirred.
Well, yeah, as of now, I think she's pretty settled, and she seems quite passive in her approach with Todd. She wasn't the one who sent him to the room, and she's sort of she's observing him. She's not trying to do anything quite like actively with him. She's just sort of passively monitoring the situation. Say other parents, such as I can imagine, like Helen or Luan, for example, or other parents maybe having a more active, like you're grounded. You have to go to see Dr. Marvin Monroe, those kind of things. Whereas Maude's just, I'm going to see how this plays out. I trust that my son knows what he's doing.
Well, she does turn, and he seems like she's just giving the facts to Ned, not the judgment. So Ned then pulls out a clipboard that has a list of possible bad influences. Bumper stickers, comic books, grandma. I'm assuming he means Ned's mum, not Marilyn Goodman, our invented character. And television, but not the most obvious influence of The Simpsons next door, which I guess later we find out is Ned realizes it's The Simpsons who are the problem.
Yeah, I've just had like a realizations dawned on me, but we're going to have to look into this. But there is a Grandma Flanders, the one who says, "Hello, Joe," and the one who she's a bit like the crazy, raggedy-haired old woman.
Yeah.
But we know that's not Ned's mum, because Ned's mum is the hippie. So is that Ned's grandmother, or is that Maude's mother?
Well, she wouldn't be Maude's mother if her name was Flanders, would she?
That's true, because they call her Grandma Flanders. So we're going to have to assume that that's Ned's grandmother, which must make her like 130. Magic
of cartoons?
Yeah. But yeah, I had a brief moment then where I thought maybe we already know Maude's mother, and all of this has been for nothing but...
I've delved into the deepest, darkest pits of the internet, and nobody has mentioned any of Maude's relations in any way, shape, or form. Unlike Ned's sister, who clearly exists, Nadina Flanders.
I have a way of maybe figuring that out, actually, with this book. I was going to mention it before. Let me have a quick look, because I will change my opinion, because Ned's mother has about 4 different names, but the official name for her is Capri.
Okay.
So if that's in here, no, they've got Ned's mother named in here as Agnes Turnipspeed, and it looks nothing like Ned's mother. And Ned's mother has been called both Mona and Capri on the show. So no.
So you're suggesting that book is not canon?
No, that's a big steaming pile of BS.
Wow, tough words, strong words there.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give you that for now until I'm able to prove you wrong. But then let's jump into the last clip. This is the right show now. This is a Raggedy Man rings Ned's doorbell. It's Homer's long lost brother, and he says, "Sorry, wrong house." And then Ned says, "That's where you're wrong, my friend," he says chirpily. And then Maude sidles up behind him super creepy and smiling with strangers at the door. And Ned says, "Aren't we in luck?" And if we didn't know the Flanders before, it'd be like you'd think they were going to murder this dude. But anyway, today is our tithe day, and we got ourselves a transient. So tithe is where you have to usually give like a 10% of your earnings or whatever to the church. I'm not really sure how this relates to doing good things. Maybe there's some part of that in this evangelical Christianity that he's part of. And we got ourselves a transient, so they take the homeless guy in, and Maud's clasping her hands. Oh, praise be. And Ned literally drags this dude in, and Maud's essentially like blocking the door when she turns. But again, we know these guys; they're all above board. Todd rocks up with a towel and says, "Dad, can I anoint the sores on his feet?" Which I guess that's a Bible reference. I don't know. Tell me if it is or isn't. And then Ned says, "I think it's Mom's turn." Oh, no fair. Maude doesn't seem to have a particularly strong feeling about this when we flash back to her, but Todd does not like the idea that he doesn't get to do this. So, we have to imagine what goes in there. They give him a bath and some food and a nice suit, and they send him out on his way. And they say, "Thanks for the suit." And then the family all stand at the door. And once again, even though you claim that Maude only sings 2 songs in this whole show, this is the second episode in a row where Maude is singing a completely different song. Now, last week you claimed that "Slap on a Happy Smile" doesn't count because you couldn't hear her voice. They're singing "Onward Christian Soldiers" as he walks down the path. Ned says, "If you ever want to spend the night, Maude and I can sleep on card tables." Again, these people don't like gambling. Why have they got a bunch of card tables lying around their house? And so they sing "Onward Christian Soldiers, marching off to war." I listened and I could not hear Maude's voice. I could hear the boys and I could hear Ned. So maybe she's just mouthing along again. Or maybe the actress, it just wasn't worth flying her in to do that one line. But there we go. That's another big stonking clip that's probably of absolutely no significance.
Yeah. No, this is a very brief one that I've forgotten the ones where she doesn't talk. So this is a nice surprise. Because I've not watched this episode for a very long time either. So, yeah, she has no response at all to being, she doesn't look annoyed or pleased that she gets to clean the sores on his feet, but it's very likely that he didn't have sores. Oh, no, actually, he was actually homeless. So they didn't mistake him for a homeless person. He was just genuinely homeless. So maybe they did clean him up. But yeah, she was there ready. She had, again, passive. She had no active. She didn't make any decisions in this entire thing. She didn't even speak. And she didn't sing. So she's just she's just hanging around in this one.
She's creepy, though. She just sidles up next to him and just stands there. And I know the idea is just that she's just part of the family, but it just looks super weird. I've got this hang-up about super weird, creepy religious people because I saw this movie once, which I can't remember the name of, that had Brian Dennehy in and James Woods, and it freaked the hell out of me. And now I'm freaked out by any weird religious stuff, and that looks weird.
Yeah, they definitely play on it. The further it goes on as well, they play off the Flanders being creepy and weird, as well as, they play on the whole, not just necessarily too nice, like unsettling, like there is some kind of ulterior motive, like a leave me alone kind of nice. And yeah, a lot of Maude's presence in that is standing and smiling eerily. But yeah, again, I've noticed she's going to sing. Are you going to see her singing quite a lot, I think? Because I can already think of 3 or 4 more times. But again, I'd say that's more her participating than singing. She only actually sings herself, I think, 2 solo lines in possibly 32 years. Which
are "I've Got You, Babe" and "Go Tell It on the Mountain."
Yeah.
It's weird, though, that they're singing and the other people's voices are clearly audible, but Maude's voice is not in that mix. The boys and Ned are clearly audible. It's a weird one.
I will point out as well, I think it was the last episode, but it might have been this episode. Rod wasn't voiced by the correct person. Rod is usually voiced by Millhouse's actress, Pamela Hayden. But in this episode, I could tell just from the voice. I'm pretty sure it was the woman who died last year. She's called Russi Taylor, and she was Matt Prince and Sherry and Terry, and she was Minnie Mouse as well, I think. But yeah, Rod was voiced by her in that episode, which I thought again was quite strange. They clearly haven't got a grasp on Rod yet.
Okay. Pamela Hayden, is that the same woman that was in the Louis C.K. TV show? Was that her?
No, that's Pamela Adlon. But strangely, she does voice Bobby in King of the Hill.
All right. So that's the end of all the clips, and that's the end of Maude's season 3 appearance. It seems like, is there a lot to grasp there in terms of season 3 growth in season 2, we saw her come out as someone who's big into protest and someone who's very supportive of the family, has a little bit of a dark side, maybe wants the world to burn occasionally, but keeps it in check, and generally wants to help and is a kind person, gives people lots of chances. Did we learn anything new from these clips, really, about Maude in season 3?
All I think that we've learned this season is that she likes Aerosmith, or she's not completely. The only thing we can take is that she's not completely buttoned up the way that we thought, because even seeing her at Moes Tavern was a surprise. But outside of that, yeah, we basically had the Flanders episode last week with the Leftorium, where she had a biggish role, but she didn't really do anything. She was just sort of supportive of Ned and kept the faith. And yeah, every time we've seen her this season, really, she's just been placid, and there's not really been any controversy or villainy in season 3. She's just sort of been Ned's wife.
She's just been supporting, she's just been kind, she's just been nice. And to be honest, as wild as this season 3 ride has been, there's not been a lot of ups and downs. So let's hope season 4 brings, a little bit more of a peek behind the Maude curtain.
It will. Season 4 is a good season for her. She might not be in a lot, but the ones that she's in will have a lot to break down.
Oh, those words are dripping with mystery. Dripping with mystery. Shall we jump into a segment we call A Week Too Late?
Yes.
We've got a couple of things here. So first of all, I just thought of this. Who did get Grandpa's money? So the Flanders, I'm guessing, didn't get it. Or maybe they did and it just wasn't mentioned. I was guessing, and I don't know, I would guess, knowing The Simpsons, that A, nobody, or B, Mr. Burns.
No, I think it was quite a nice one. I'm pretty sure all the old people got it, and they used it to make the retirement home better. I vaguely remember there's a point where all the old people are on a bus with Otto, about to go to Vegas to just gamble the money away. But I'm pretty sure Homer turns up, and I'm pretty sure they end up using it to help the old people.
All right. So basically, the Flanders would have done something nice like that anyway. So basically, it went to where it needed to. So victuals, it's archaic 1800 words for victuals, which is food that is fit for human consumption. They made this weird archaic joke. And it is kind of interesting how The Simpsons will make wordplay and jokes on references that are just wild and total out there. And who would have got that reference in 1991 or 2 without the internet really around to check?
Yeah, and it's definitely this is one of the examples I can think of him doing it where it isn't Mr. Burns doing it. It makes sense when it's Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
And he says, ahoy, hoy. Or, he still has the stock machine with the paper that you pull out and stuff like that. But for Ned and Maude to say it makes little to no sense.
You don't have to, with Mr. Burns, you don't have to know what it means. You just know it's an old word, and that's funny because he's an old
man. Whereas there's no joke there really. It's just an old word that would confuse people.
Yeah. I guess they were just scratching around for some kind of joke. So here's one thing I got totally wrong. You said the guy who speaks at the barbecue table, is it Martin Prince's dad? And I said no, and it was. Martin Prince's dad, he has the blue glasses on, and apparently he's a stockbroker. So I wonder whether he has something to do with Ned, whether he's an investor in Ned's leftorium. But he's never told. We never know, right?
No, I don't think you ever see them together again. There's a woman as well, I know, when I was doing the screenshots, that she's at the barbecue, stood really close to Martin's mum and dad and really close to Flanders. And she's right there in the centre at the end as well. When the Flanders and the Simpsons are singing, she's right next to them. But she is, again, nobody.
It's weird, but I guess at that point in the Simpsons history, it wasn't tight. They didn't know who all those people were, so they throw in the Flanders barbecue, we said, was just housed by people who we barely saw again. And Martin Prince's dad, who doesn't appear that often, is just in there Whereas that in 4 or 5 seasons later, I'm surprised it didn't already have the Hibberts and the Lovejoys and stuff. It just makes sense. But I mean, just think of the gold.
Yeah,
because the gold that could have been there in that barbecue scene.
Because the Simpsons had already had the party, and the only thing I can think is it sort of makes it more realistic of it being it's more of a town if there's just these, like, Ned's got this whole group of friends that nobody knows about and you never see again.
That is cool. I mean, that's like, you know, where it could go, but in the end, it ended up just being every single scene would have the same people that we'd seen before, right? They would expand a little.
Yeah. They still throw a lot of random people in there, but it's sort of more consistent. It's sort of like one random person for every 7, you know, like regular characters.
The good old 1-to-7 ratio. I love it. So this is animated rule. Here we go. Shall we jump into the penultimate segment of today's show, Maude Art? Now, Maude Art today is a little Instagram site, a little Instagram fella called Face Forward Simpsons. I like to call Face Forward Maudes. And this dude, which is you, spoiler alert, does these awesome drawings of Simpsons characters face on. I think they're spectacular. I went through your 1,000 or so characters that you had posted and found all of the Maudes. Off the top of your head, how many would you guess? How many Maudes would you guess are in there?
Thank you. I'm going to say like 20.
Well, maybe I missed some then because I only found 13. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk through and I'm going to briefly show each one. And I'd like you to tell me a little bit about each one. And you can throw these up on the screen because you're doing some awesome graphics while we're doing these videos. I'm sure that people have noticed that the graphic quality of our videos has increased exponentially since episode 1 and 2, which involved me slapping on those same 2 images for the entire show.
Yes, thank you.
Right, so can you see my
this
now?
Yeah, Zombie Maude.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I see Zombie Maude. This is from, I like this one a lot. This is from like a Simpsons comic, like a Halloween comic I got when I was younger, and they have like a alphabet of horror, and it's really like kind of gruesomely drawn. And yeah, Maude is I think it's undead, like U for undead, and it's a picture of Maude looking like that, creeping up on Ned, eating the back of his head.
Oh, that's cool. So it's not canon.
So I wanted to.
It's just totally in the comic book bongo world of comics.
Yeah, it's not from the TV show.
Interesting. All right, Maude number 2. Chubby Maude with a shaggy dog.
Chubby Maude. Yeah, Chubby Maude. That's Reverend Lovejoy's dog, so it's sort of unrelated. I just slapped them both together. Chubby Maude, I like to draw Maudes in different varieties, and there's an episode where Homer becomes a food critic and everybody gets fat in town, and you see Ned and Maude walk past very, very briefly. And she's chubby, so I wanted to replicate that because she's chubby for one scene and then she's back to normal.
Well, that's the magic of TV shows, isn't it? That's the old fat suit, which you don't even need a fat suit in cartoons. But so she's in a Pop-Tart there?
She's holding some food while she's walking, so I think it's just maybe just a piece of bread. That seems more like a Maude.
Maybe dry bread. She managed to put a big gut on just eating dry bread. All right,
dry white bread.
Maude 3. This is a good one. This is spooky.
I like this one. This is from her most recent appearance in the Todd episode where Todd loses faith because Maude died, which is in season 31, which is 20 seasons after she died.
But also,
so this is from
weeks later.
Yeah, or the same day. Or before she's died. Maybe not. Yeah, he's having a nice dream, and it all goes awry. And when Maude turns around, she doesn't have a face. And his thing is that he's starting to sort of forget what she looks like. Quite a good episode, but yeah, he can't really remember what she looked like because she died weeks or years ago.
And he's 8 years old, right? And so that's spooky.
10.
Not he's 10. The faceless Maude is one of my favorites, but it is spooky. Along with that weird rainbow candy bear that's standing next to them as well.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just going to do one more because there's 13 of these. I think we can split into a few sections and sprinkle over the next however many episodes. Oh, here we go. Spoiler alert, everyone. What's going on here?
This is the big one. This is one of the only like direct, like exact scenes that I've drawn rather than just like replicating a character. I've drawn the exact scene. This is where she gets got.
Gets got with those teas. But why is Ned fast asleep in this picture? Because I don't think in the real one he's asleep, is he?
No, it's from the I did it from the exact screen grab of that. The moment there's like 3 frames
Okay.
of Maude by the t-shirts, and Ned is blinking, so he has his eyes closed in the frame that I chose to draw, and I wanted to go for photorealism.
Photorealism, but I think it signifies a lot that life is fleeting. Blink and you'll miss it. You have to stop and smell the flowers every once in a while, or you might just miss it, says Ferris Bueller. So this is the brutal end of Maude with his t-shirts flying around and Homer bending down to pick up whatever it was he dropped. So those are awesome pictures. There's about 7 or 8 more that we can bring up in episodes further down the line. But good work. And if you want to buy Nathan's pictures, then you should put some money in the bag and just write Nathan, King Nathan, Maude Flanders Internet Museum and Database, Netto Car Park, Worsley Mains, Wigan. Just send it to him, and then somehow magically he'll get that picture to you.
Yeah, face forward. Right, face forward Simpsons on the bag.
Yeah.
And throw it into a river, and the river will bring it to me.
Good. And go on the Instagram as well, because he's also got digital versions up there. And I thought of a way to make some money out of this thing, Nathan, because if you start drawing the characters we invent, such as Marilyn Goodman and particularly Magdalena Turnbull, my favourite from last week, the one-legged woman who used her children as her legs, very silly. That's guaranteed cash. We can make t-shirts, because even that dude who drew that awesome Maude sat on the Bible, I mean, that's flagrant copyright infringement, but of course it's a parody, so the rules get a bit muddy. But if we've invented those characters, so what are the chances of doing face forward Simpsons on the characters that we've invented so far in this show? Because we've invented about 8 so far.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. We've got, not only do we have Marilyn and the 8 siblings and Janice, we also have Stamp and the other guy, the John Stats.
Yeah. Speaking of John Stats, just before we finish, so letters. We got a couple of letters this week. Last week we got harassed by a youngster. We guessed these are young, and this fella's done it again. I read this. You are still doing mad stuff, mate. Is you effing menky? It has blown my head. I'll have you. Krang Chad Chuff. It said it was signed Graz F. Chocolate spread on the screen, but when I tried to look at it, it wasn't on my screen. Somehow he'd got it inside his screen and it smeared out his name on YouTube, and it was still there. So I couldn't tell if it really was Graz F or something else.
I see. Well, do you just want me to respond to that?
Yeah. What do you want to do about that? This is harassment.
It is harassment, but he's entitled to his opinion. And even though it doesn't make sense to me, that's what the who are we to tell him he's wrong?
Well, I think ending it with Krang Chad Chuff. I don't know if that's some kind of local slang. Maybe it's from both.
Maybe.
Shall we do the song?
He's a poet.
Might be. I'd love to hear the songs of Graz F.
Very
right.
Dr. Seuss.
Right. How are we doing this? Who's going first? Me. You're pointing at the screen now. That did not translate into words, but you point at the screen. So, some wood trouble, to hell with this.
Ploughed manders.
Multiple pieces of cutlery.
Damn veg.
Would you like some mixed damn vegetables?
Incorrect rod voice.
Ooh, you knew I had a temper when you married me, my Flanders.
Lip syncing to hymns.
Smoochy, smoochy, Andy Griffith spin-off reference.
Sore feet anointment.
Ooh, list of bad influences. Bumper stick, Carlos Grandma, but not the Simpsons.
Children limbs.
The whole thing is creepy.
Faceless bears.
Faceless Maudes.
Won't somebody please think of the Maudes?
Think of the Maudes.
Think of the Moes.
Think of the Maudes.
Think of the Moes.
Think of the Maudes. Yeah, we did it. Episode 6. In the bag. See you next time, Nathan.
Nice. Bye.
Bye.